All right, everybody, welcome to Note Night in America, Avengers Endgame. Apologize for a little bit of the delay there on technology, but we finally got it working. Excited to have you guys tonight join me live here, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time here on Zoom. We are live streaming this straight to YouTube, as always. Excited to have you guys here tonight on Note Night in America. And with it being the first Monday of the month, this is wide open to our whole database, open to everybody in Note Nation out there. The first Monday of the month is always open. The subsequent Monday nights are reserved just for our WCN membership members. But tonight's topic is too good not to share with everybody. So that's why we are excited to have each and everybody of you join us tonight on No Night in America. It's Avengers Endgame. Hopefully, you've seen the movie since it came out, because we might share a few things along the way that if you're not prepared for, well, tough luck. Get out and see it. I've already seen the movie twice. We'll probably see it a third time before we head out this week. So anyway, tonight, Note Night in America. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Promise to give you some great stuff. You're going to want to grab a pen and paper because we're probably going to discuss some things you're going to want to write down. If this is your first time to Monday nights, Note Night in America, hey, we've got a variety of people who are here tonight. We've got note and real estate investors, obviously, that watch. We have people interested in notes, people looking to invest in notes of some sort, maybe partnering with somebody else out there. This is recorded. I have hit the record button. That's awesome. So it'll be available on YouTube and our Vimeo channels, and then also take it one step further, obviously, to YouTube. But we also upload these to iTunes as its own specific podcast out there as well. You can always catch the replays by just saving WeCloseNotes.tv in your browser as well. But we're excited. We do have the Note Night in America podcast out there with lots of good stuff for you guys, and this will be made available live on there as well. Well, also, we've got a little bit of another podcast out there. It's doing really phenomenal. About to hit the 300,000 download mark. We've surpassed the 2 million download as far as listens across different platforms this last month. We just surpassed episode 450, 460 recently. We should hit 300,000 specific podcast downloads the next day or so, which is pretty humbling considering I never wanted to do a podcast. But we'd love for you to review and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher. There's always lots of great content, speakers, with interviews with speakers. Our guests are just some of the best out there. Our amazing vendors as well. And we're out there for you as well. Now, I mentioned we do our WCN crew membership. That's $97 a month if anybody's interested. That entitles you to the extra coaching calls, extra monthly swag, and a whole bunch of extra goodies to different events out there for you. But I wanted you guys to mark your calendars. I've had several people message me recently to say, hey, when's the next fast track training you have in Austin, Scott? Next two dates are June 21st to the 23rd and July 19th to the 21st. Always about the third weekend of the month. This is the only really in-depth training we do in person. The rest of it's either through our Note Buying Blueprint or our webinars. We've got 2 spots available to each one, honestly. So June's going to sell out. July will also sell out after the mastermind and quite a few people over sneak peek. So I'd love to have the opportunity. The date on that is not correct. I didn't need to change that slide, but literally next 2 dates of the fast track are rocking and rolling. We had an amazing Note mastermind. It's hard to believe 2 weeks ago. Actually, less than 2 weeks. It was last week. What am I thinking? Time is flying by when you're having fun, as they always say. The 26th, 27th, 28th, we had 40 plus people come and spend a fun couple of days with us. Just a great group of people, and looking forward to all the amazing deals that they're closing, the stores that they're sharing, and just seeing the growth taking place in so many of them. New, seasoned, and experienced people as well. So very honored to have those guys come in and gals come in and spend 3 days with me here in Austin, Texas. So another thing to mark your calendars is our Net Camp Commercial Boot Camp, July 26th through the 28th. Whether you're interested in mobile homes, RV parks, hotels, mixed use, self-storage, we're bringing on asset managers and the best in the industry to talk about the commercial side of the business, but also talking about the note side of the business can tap into that stuff. So I think before you can understand the note side and the commercial side, you've got to understand the operations side and what goes on to a lot of stuff. Normally $699. We're still extending the extra early bird seats at 50% off. If you just go to notecamp.live, that'll automatically take you to the checkout page and allow you to get your ticket there. But really excited about some of the things. Replays are included with this. This will be an online thing, July 26th to the 28th. We've got just a phenomenal group of speakers coming in, high end. I'm looking forward to being the dumbest person on in this thing for everybody out there. So look forward to that. So any questions about the events or any of the upcoming stuff that's taking place? Big quick reminder that the Quest Expo is August 23rd to the 25th in Houston, Texas. If you use the code Carson19, that should knock 50% off your ticket, whether it's a general admission or a VIP spot. So Carson19 at questexpo.com. So, all right, well, let's dive into this if nobody's got any questions for tonight. Great movie, first and foremost, but it's not all about the movie. All right. And I went and saw it for the second time yesterday morning, got up, actually went and saw, I had brunch there, and enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more the second time around because I saw a lot of similarities in the game and note investing and some of the things that we're focused on. And I thought I'd share that. Where you begin is not the end. And that's what was great about watching the movies. I have some spirits in where they're obviously going back to the past. And it's not, where you begin is not the end. And many of you are out there trying to figure out where you're at. Okay. And many of you are brand new and like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Look at you, relax yourself a little bit. Just because where you're at is kind of new doesn't mean you're even close to the end. Okay. If you think back to Iron Man 1, the first real kind of Marvel movie that came out, Tony's clanking out that Iron Man suit in that cave in the middle of the desert, that's not quite the same Iron Man as we see today in the movie, who's basically a lot more seasoned, I guess you could say. It's 20 years later, not quite 20 years, but quite a few years later, 20 some odd movies later. But he's got a different priorities on life, right? He's a little bit more, he's more polished now. He's got some more things he's focused. His priorities have changed. His focus has changed on some things. And that's for many of us. We go through time, things are going to change. All right. We're not going to be, when he started off, he was that flamboyant playboy, right? In the movie, he's a dad now, married with Pepper Potts. Okay. There's a lot of changes that take place. So you have to think about that. Okay. And more importantly, as you evolve, as you grow in the note business to get closer to your end game, you've got to up your game. I mean, honestly, to get where you want to go, you have to up your game to where you ultimately want to be. We have to evolve into that person. If you've never made $100,000, you've got to grow into that person $100,000. You have to have the activities that a person that makes $100,000. If you want to make $1 million, guess what? You've got to start acting like the person that makes $1 million. You've got to grow your mind into it. And that was different to begin with. You think about the first Iron Man, he's sitting out there with the mother of all bombs. We call it Jericho, right? Boom, the bomb took out the hillside. All right. He had this Scotch Radion Cold there. Literally the mother of all bombs. He's just interested in making bombs and weapons, right? Well, at the very end, he's literally developing time travel. It's a whole different ballgame. He's not really into the day-to-day operations of Stark. He's not into the making the bullets, okay? He's not getting into the priorities I see of this, guys, is that maybe you're like, oh, I got to get into the specific little nuggets, specific details of the asset. Well, at some point, no, you're going to outsource that. You're going to up your game to bigger and better things where you're buying assets. You're dealing with a fund. You're dealing with banks instead of dealing with a joker broker or a one-off investor, okay? You have to up your game. And for many of us out there, life is constantly changing. And we don't just have to worry about our business. We have to worry about the day in, day out. For those that have kids, things are constantly changing. When you have family, it changes, right? Health, okay? We all have an end game of what we want to get to at some point. Hopefully, you've got your end game written down. Hopefully, you've got something that is giving you the direction to go to. Hey, I got to get my kids through school before I do anything. Okay. But that doesn't mean you can't start planning. I love my podcast this morning. I recorded with Derek Long from Quest Trust. Going to be talking about getting the next generational wealth in, getting Generation Xers, Y, Z, whatever, the whole alphabet of them started on investing. And one of the things he did started doing early on to help him get where he wants to be. And some of his plans, and I thought it was such a great podcast because so many people aren't doing the simple things they got to do. You're not paying yourself first. You're not, if you just simply think that Thanos is going to show up or somebody's going to show up and snap the fingers and suddenly you're going to be rich, that's a different movie. First and foremost, Shazam or Genie, whoever, it's a different Disney movie. But your end game, I'll give you an example. Thanos in the movie is like, oh, I'm going to cut the world in half. I'm going to get rid of half the people there. Well, if you want to live on half your income, okay, great. But if you need to double your income, you have got to start working. You've got to up your game and start investing now. You can't wait around for the right time before you start doing something. The right time is now. The right time to start something is now. Right time, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago and today. So if you didn't start planting things 5 years, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, today is you're really the beginning of your end game. And that end game could be a variety of things. It could be a number, it could be assets, it could be retirement. There's everybody's end game is a little bit different. As I say, is it a number? Like, I got to have 5 million in the bank. And that's a simple thing that a lot of financial advisors like to start off with. Oh, you've got to have 5 million saved to retire in 20 years to do that, right? It's a number of deals. Oh, I'm going to have so many deals. I'm planning on having so many deals that are driving income into me. Okay, that's a great one. I had a great conversation with Jason Bible on Friday talking about how he switched his business model from Houston house buyers to buying and selling and flipping to buying and retaining. Quit working so hard to go out and have to constantly hunt things down to the point like, well, hey, now I don't want to hunt so much. Once I kill, I want to eat off this for affinity. All right. Is it a lifestyle change? Maybe it is. Maybe you need to cut back on what you're doing to change your lifestyle. And lifestyle can be different. It could be healthier. It could be, hey, I need to cut out the crown and ribeyes. One of the things that I have done recently. I still like a good Crown Royal, and I still love ribeye, but I've cut that out dramatically out of my diet, so I've gotten healthier. And I appreciate some of you guys commenting that my double and triple chins are gone. Now I have like a half a chin. I'm joking a little bit, but the point is I've changed some lifestyle things, okay, of making sure I'm eating healthier, making sure I'm working out, making sure for many of you guys, you just got to be like, I just got to get to the gym for 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever it might be. Just something. There are little twitches you can make, little changes you can make to really help you get to that end game faster. Okay. All right. It's all about the ending or at a beginning. Are you ending one thing? You're waiting to end one thing or before you start beginning. And I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think waiting to end something before you start something is effective as all. Best time to start now. If you wanted to start a podcast, don't wait till 6 months from now. Go ahead and start it now. Start putting those foundations in place. If you want to buy notes, hey, start making some offers now. Start calling asset managers. Start calling bankers, okay? Start doing those things now. Start setting those priorities. So many people wait, I'll do it at the end of the year, or I'll do my New Year's resolution. Many of your New Year's resolutions are completely shot. They're gone. They're completely blown up, right? They've exploded because you didn't do anything about it. You're completely, and you can sit here and beat yourself up, call yourself a failure, or you could get rocking and rolling and start beginning those things and start looking to hit your target. That's the sound of an arrow hitting a target, I believe. But that's the thing. Don't wait to blow up. Go out and literally start taking action and make some difference in your life. Help you get to your end game faster. Because I know many of us don't want to wait 40 years for an end game. We'd rather have it happen in 20 years or 10 years, right? And so the thing I want to ask you guys as I'm sitting there watching the movie and thinking about, Tony has made some changes because Iron Man is my favorite character. Captain America is second. And those two characters went through some very big changes in Endgame. Yeah, they're badass, and Tony saved the world, and then you have Captain America who went back in time and decided to live his life instead of being just, the first Avenger. You have the ability to change that. Nobody else has the ability. Now, you can't go back in time. We'll get to that in a second. But many of you can start making changes right now. And I'm going to talk, and this is not just all motivational. This has something to do with what you're focused on. And trust me, I'm getting to that point. Okay? So what are some changes that you can make? And there's changes that take place all the time, right? And you've been investing, doing business so much, and things will change. Okay? There's like state changes. Changes take place in our business all the like foreclosure launches changes. Like, it's getting faster to foreclose in Florida than it used to be. Okay. Or Georgia requiring you now to have a mortgage broker's license if you're buying one note versus 4 notes, unless you're using your self-directed IRA. Okay. You also have like market values rebound, like Florida coming way back. I had to make a change a couple of years ago. I either keep trying to buy in Florida or I got to start moving to other markets. I'll give you an example. There's somebody out there. There's an investor in Florida. Not had him on my podcast, so I'm not going to say it. But he was like, oh yeah, I'm buying Florida. I only buy in Florida. I'm like, well, how many non-performing notes have you bought in the last 12 months? He goes, nothing. I'm like, so what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm just waiting. I'm like, why wouldn't you buy in Ohio or Michigan or some other place? Well, I want to go and touch it. I'm like, well, that's the old way of doing business. And he's a bit of an older guy. Okay. But he's letting the market dictate to him what his changes are versus him making the changes. If you're going to sit there and be passive and let the market dictate to you, that's fine. You just have to go with the flow. Unless you want to be proactive and say, no, I'm not going to wait around for another default market for me. I start buying my backyard. I'm going to go do some things. Yes, there's some licensing changes that have taken place in some states. Okay, great. You see what the Owner Finance Coalition is doing. Seller Finance Coalition is trying to get the licensing changes for buying owner finance notes and selling those things. Okay. Pricing has been a big change. I hear this all day long, and it drives me bonkers. People complain about pricing. Look, the market's changed. Adjust accordingly. Either buy in a different state or buy in bulk. This is one of the biggest aha moments, I think, from the mastermind. I was talking with people. It's like, listen, if you're buying the best asset off of a list from somebody, you have to understand the bank is going to understand that it's a pretty good asset. Unless you're willing to take some of the crap down at the bottom, they're not going to knock down their price. But if you take some stuff down the bottom, then they're knocking down their price a little bit. You can still make something happen with that lower stuff. You've got to get creative on your pricing a little bit. Market saturation. I still believe there's plenty of deals to go around, and I'll share why that is in a second here. But I always, when you start having more people come into the market, yes, that low-hanging fruit gets gobbled up, or you have people bidding over each other. It's like rats on a sinking ship, and that low level, yeah. You want to be the rat in top, like, okay, I'm getting the heck out of here. You want to be in the crow's nest and not down in the bottom there fighting other rats for a deal, okay? And then a lot of people have had to change their asset class. People that were investing in seconds either had to go to the first side or go back into real estate traditionally. You saw that with Dave Van Horn for the most part. He stopped doing seconds and started doing more traditional real estate. Our buddy Faquan Bilal has done that. Gone from the seconds to being more on his, general real estate investing side. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people have gone from non-performing notes and buying a lot of contract for deeds. That's been a great source. Some people have gone from notes into the rental side. Well, I'm going to go and keep my properties for a little bit more. Okay, great. Some people are stopped buying from the banks and are going more into owner finance paper. There is no wrong answer to that asset because you're flexible. You're changing. I mean, it's evolving. Everybody goes through changes. I mean, you could be the fittest Thor in Thor Ragnarok, or you can be the Big Lebowski Thor in Endgame. One of the funniest things, literally the Big Lebowski. Okay. I prefer trying to stay lean and mean. Okay. But a lot of people will get fat on their specific things and they're lazy enough they don't want to move. Right? We've all been through this. We've all we get used to doing business. So we get used to sitting on our ass drinking beer in New Asgard versus I need to go out and make some things happen. Okay. Where are you at your business? Are you the fit Thor? We're rock and rolling on a new planet, or are you just sitting here waiting to die? You can sit here and bitch and moan. No, I can't handle it. I goofed up. I made a big mistake on a bad deal. Oh, I can't do it anymore. I'm just going to sit here and bitch and moan. I can't find any deal. I'm going to complain about pricing. I'm going to complain about, overpriced or this trashy assets I see. And that's the thing that drives me bonkers. It drives me bonkers. Look, I think when you're working with other people, I think it's great having a list of stuff. But if you're looking at the same assets that everybody in a group is looking at, it's time to move on to a different asset list. It's time to change your marketing. It's time to evolve and dive into something else. Okay? As Dan Tippett said, be the early Elvis, not the fat 70s Elvis. Exactly. All right? So I see this, and this is what drives me bonkers. I keep seeing people trying to squeeze blood out of a rock. Okay. If your market where you were buying it isn't working, you have to evolve. You have to change. It's a 21st century. You have to change. Okay. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability to snap your fingers and go back in time. Okay. You don't have your own infinity note gauntlet. It doesn't work that way. Okay. I have the time stone. I will go back in time. It doesn't work that way. Sorry. Okay. Great thing about movies. Yes, it's fictional. It's not real life. Okay. Or those was the days of note and buying in the year yonder of 2017. Okay. You have to get beyond yourself and realize there are always opportunities out in every market. You just got to go out and find them. The only thing you have to get, you can't go back. You have to go forward. Now, you can learn from your past, but you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep moving towards new targets, new audiences. All right. I had some great conversations today with two of my great note friends that used to travel on the road with me all the time. And it was interesting hearing both of them talking about, one's still in the note space. Another one's kind of on the way out of the note space a little bit, doing some stuff. Another one's doing some origination. It was just great hearing from both these guys, literally in a matter of like 30 minutes from each other. I hadn't talked to them in a while. It was just great catching up with them. But they're moving forward. They're moving forward for where they're focused on. They've changed their business. They're not sitting there waiting for someone to bring them more beer. And they've both had to adjust their end. They've both had to adjust their end to what their target is. It's not the same thing. I'm going to buy 1,000 assets and finances. It's going to change. And the thing you have to keep in mind, what does that mean for us? Well, it means for us that you have to adjust your marketing. You have to adjust what your focus is. I've always made the same. In roughly about 12 months' time, about half the people that come into the note space are gone. The other half are doing something. Okay? And so many of us, because I've been guilty of this in the past, are chasing the scraps. Now, I'm a big fan. I'm a big believer that you have to up your game to dealing with banks. When the market got tight in the non-performing side, the next closest asset that was easy to dive into was the contract for deeds side. Bought a lot of contract for deeds. We made a lot of great deals work. We're selling a bunch of those off. We'll get to that in a second. But that was a great opportunity there. 26,000 contract for deeds with Harbor portfolio. Great. You know what's happened now? Those deals are priced over. Harbor's gone. All right. There are so many joker broker tapes out there that are overpriced. Literally, if you're not dealing direct with the seller or the true seller rep, you're overpaying and you're not in control of those bids. If you're not direct, you're overpaying or you're wasting your time. You totally are wasting your time if you're not direct. And so let me give you an example. Bank assets are going to be cleaner, better priced, less guesswork about the deal, especially because you know directly what's going on with the deal. Clean collateral and less competition. All right. Let's crack it up. I've got 150 assets for sale, and I've had maybe 20 bids on some stuff. I got some good stuff, some good non-performing, and some good performing stuff too. And I kind of crack up about it. Some people are like, oh, people that were on one webinar haven't responded, but that's okay. We're doing some marketing to drive it. What I find though is note investors or real estate investors, they get so used to trying to put a deal together. That reminds me of Spider-Man. They're trying to pull the two parts together, and they're just not going to fit. They might look good, but all the pulling together isn't going to do you any good to make that deal go together. Because sometimes they just don't make sense. You got to go out and find something that's a fully put together, not piecing it together, asset. The bank assets, like I said, they're cleaner. And I mean by cleaner, they're probably better assets. They've probably been vacant for 2 years or 3 years. They're going to have better pricing. My better pricing means higher valued assets. You're probably going to get better pricing directly because you're not dealing with broker or joker brokers. You're also going to probably pay at a much better price because of the fact if you do buy a bulk, they're going to give you a bigger discount. There's less guesswork involved because they're going to know what's going on with the asset, the borrower. They're going to know exactly directly from the source. The collateral right alone is clean for the most part, but less competition. Is there are so fewer people reaching out to asset managers at banks that I'm just laughing at everybody fighting over the scraps. Oh yeah, I made an offer. Oh yeah, better check the toxic asset list. I'm like, when I see that, I'm like, if you guys are all chasing the same toxic assets, that's great. You've got a toxic asset list to change it, but you got to evolve. If you've got to sit there and put together a list and do this over and over, and I'm not picking on anybody here. I'm just simply saying the time is to evolve. You can't be, hey, everybody focus on this one list. I think it's a great thing, especially that Chris and Gail have put together in a group. I think it's a great thing, but I think if you're constantly having to fight over pick through that list, it's time to move on. So many people get stuck into just buying from a few assets, and we've been guilty of in the past. Oh, we just got 5 or 6 sources of this stuff. We're just going to stick with that. Well, now I got to pick through what I've been. No. Well, if you find yourself having to pick through things you've looked at before or tapes you've seen before, it's time to get new sources. It's time to evolve and quit chasing the scraps. And how do you get banks to reach out to you? How do you get banks to recognize you? Well, you've got to stand out. Doing the bare minimum to get by is not enough anymore. Okay? Doing the bare minimum to get by is not enough anymore at all for everybody out there. It's a 21st freaking century. The way marketing is working, you have to stand out. Okay? And you can't sit on the sidelines just buying a ticket these days. You actually have to get into the game. You actually have to get into the game to get some things done. And that means doing a little bit extra, but 5% more goes a long way. If you're doing 5% more, I'll give you an example. If you send an email out to your asset managers and you expect them to start calling you with deals, that's not going to happen. But sending out an email and then following up with with a phone call to those that open the email, that's an extra 5%. Or jumping on LinkedIn and sending an invite if you send an email out to asset managers, that's an extra 5%. Or if you actually get a phone call or you reach out with phone calls, you're down for dollars, follow up by a thank you card. Okay. Or instead of just saying a regular boring email, maybe you've got a picture attached to it. Okay. Maybe you've got a picture attached to a video. Okay. Or like a video in your email that goes out to it. Or maybe there's an article that affects that bank in a state, an interesting article. Maybe you want to include that to the asset manager. All right. Maybe you just film a 2-minute video or less about you and what you're focused on. Those little things go a long way to help you stand out from the crowd. I mean, I think about in the movie, I'm cracking up at this. This is one of my favorite parts is how Mark Ruffalo's character, the Hulk, was able to merge the evil side, the Hulk smash, with the brain side together. So he's the best of both worlds to the point where he's getting like selfies with people. Okay. Great part of the movie. I found it quite humorous. Now he's like, oh yeah, I can smash if I want to, but I'm also the brains. I'm the beauty and the brawn. Okay. They stood out from the crowd. People were coming up. Oh, hey, let me get a selfie with you. Okay. You can stand out from the crowd to make some things happen. And it does not take a lot of stuff to do. My buddy, Charles Wilson, did a great job putting an email together to go out to his asset manager. He also took some time to film a video. I think it's like a 30-second video of just kind of what his company does. He's got that as the bottom of his email. It's going out to asset managers. Great stuff. Eric Ham sending out emails to asset managers. He's going to be calling people that actually click on his website and click on his LinkedIn profile. That's a great little easy thing to do. He's also going to add and going in and those that connect, export those from his email and then send connections to those people on LinkedIn in a bulk upload. You can do that too. Okay. Now, what you have to realize, this kind of comes back to the same old villains, as I like to say, the same old assets. Okay. 95% of people out there are targeting the same assets. Why do you say that, Scott? Because 95% of people will go after low-hanging fruit because they're lazy. It just is what it is. And laziness, maybe that's something that's a little harsh. Laziness is just because of the fact they're busy. They just maybe they don't have time. Maybe they're too spread out doing fix and flips and owner financing and a variety of other things. Or they have a full-time JOB. There's nothing wrong with a full-time JOB. Now, if that JOB is going to get you to your end game, great. If it's not, maybe you need to find another end game. Okay? And this is what I come to, and I've pulled numbers as of about an hour ago. There are still millions of assets available. How is it? What I mean by millions? Well, if you just take a look, in 2018, $10.3 trillion originated in 2018 in loans. $10.3 trillion originated. The average loan amount was $148,000. Now, there are 70 million loans basically from banks. Now, if you figure that you've got a 3% default rate on the low side from the bank side, that's still 2.1 million new loans out there that are in default off the 70 million. And there's defaults. There are 6-month defaults. There are 12-month defaults. There are subprime, or sorry, let's get that right. Non-prime loans that are going to be in default. They're already in default. There's already sellers out there. There are already banks and lenders that have this stuff on their books they're looking to get rid of. There are 2,400 banks plus. There's more than 2,400 banks right now that have 5 or more branches. They have anywhere from 5 to 5,000 branches. There's lists. And I guarantee very few people are picking the phone dialing for dollars on that list. Very few people are doing this stuff. Why? Because I don't see people doing it. Some people do it and they fall off. You have to realize there's a system to method to your madness. Okay. Now, the thing, why do I say millions versus, that's only 2.1 million? Because banks only make up 40% of the origination side. Another 51% are portfolio lenders, non-bank lenders, non-FDIC insured banks that are originating loans. There's a whole lot of more loans out there that are available for it. That's why we say there's somewhere between 4 and 5 million pretty much every year. And with the way that the internet works with Distress Pro and LinkedIn and LingGuide and some of the things that we've talked about, heck, there are so many different tools, the FDIC.gov list. There's so many tools that we have discussed that just disgust me because people aren't using them. And I see people just chasing their tail because they keep chasing the same old villains. Oh, we're going to call John Keith this time. Oh, we're going to call Granite. Oh, we're going to call all these idiots. And they're not all idiots. John Keith is not an idiot. Let me rephrase that, friends. There are some people who keep chasing the same old assets, the same old villains. And they wonder why they're not getting any new results because they're doing the same thing they were doing 2 years ago, expecting to change. This is a market that you have to change. You have to constantly be changing. I wouldn't waste my time on anybody that comes with a list. That if it's on a toxic list, I would kill that list and I start going looking for new assets. I would jump on the county records and pull a list of anybody that's got an assignment mortgage, and I start dialing for dollars. I'd pay a VA $4 an hour, go find me phone numbers of these companies because it's going to be valuable because nobody else is going to do some of the things that I'm talking about doing. Oh my gosh. You mean I got to spend $200 up front to get a list of something like that? Yeah. Why not? I mean, I got to spend $367 to be in business. Well, yeah. How much in dough do you think the pizza place bought in dough or in marinara sauce or in printing last month? Many people talk about being in business, but mostly they're just idiots not doing anything. You got to put a little bit of investment in your deal. Okay. And I always like to ask it, well, if this is your first rodeo, I apologize because I'm a little direct and blunt, but quit being the solo guy or gal. Well, I have to do everything myself. That's your problem. If you're out there like, well, I can't pay for email because it only allows me 2,000. I'm just going to go ahead and put a list in and copy paste the list. You know what? You're an investor. Start investing. If you're going to pay for your email service provider, I mean, you're going to have an email you're going to send out, then you need to pay to have a decent one. You don't need to piecemeal crap together. Quit looking for the least amount to do and start realizing maybe I should do a little bit more. I know I can do more. I know I can do more. We've got some things in place to do more. All right. Maybe some of you need to connect with other like-minded note investors, people that are doing it, and then maybe you're not having to do it all yourself. Maybe you're banding together to get more done. Many of you guys watched probably Game of Thrones last night. Well, the House of Stark could not take on the White Walkers by themselves. They have to band. All right. With Dany and her hordes and her army of Unsullied, and then the Dothrakians from across the ocean. Okay. They had to band together. The Avengers had to band together to come in to defend against Thanos. They had to come together to get it done, not do it one at a time, not one person. Okay. And in this situation, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3. I'll give you a great example. There's some Gabe Cass is a student of ours. Does a lot with seconds, does a lot with first. Him and oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the guy that he works with. Couple investors anyway. I'm such bad for names right now. Steve? Crap. Anyway, they got together. They have their own businesses. They don't live too far apart. One lives in Los Angeles. The other one lives in Huntington Beach. But they get together once a week. As they were getting tapes in of seconds, they would divide and conquer. They would band together to go through due diligence on these assets. And they would, okay, you bid on this, or bid together, co-bid. and they would get more stuff done versus trying to be a solopreneur. I'm a big proponent of the different note groups that are taking place out there in Orlando or Tampa or Grand Rapids or Denver or Detroit. And I see people that are they know each other. They're literally living across the street from each other, but they're not working together. They're all, I got to do it by myself. No, you don't. Stop what you're doing. Reach out to somebody local. Go to your local meetup groups and start talking with people. If you're part of a mastermind group, hey, let's band together, do some things. I'm going through coaching with somebody, or I got a group I'm working with. Make some offers. What you don't want to do is be this group that gets together and nothing is ever done. If you're one of these people that talks a game, oh, I'm so busy, then your end game has to change. But there are people, double the minimum. If you come together, you can get double the momentum, and your costs are actually going to be reduced usually by half because you're bearing the load. You're getting more done as long as you're working and hold each other accountable to get in the long run. And this is the thing. I always make the joke. What does that mean? Well, that means you're contacting more banks. You're maybe creating a fund and working together, splitting the cost. You want to close more deals. You just got to be very careful about your like-minded. I've made mistakes in the past of bringing people in that I thought were like-minded who went a whole different route. It is what it is. They didn't pull their own weight. And you can't have people that are similar to you. You've got to have a little bit of a cross mix of different personalities to really have things happen. If you both are A-type personalities, nothing's going to get done. All right? So that's why I make the joke about, hey, is this your first time in space in the movie? When Rocket's like, is this your first time in space? Don't throw open my ship. But they're all working together to go track Thanos down there, right? In the first part of the movie. If it's your first time in space, yes, you've got to learn some of the ropes. But I would start reaching out to people and say, hey, I can help out. I'll do due diligence. I'll pull numbers for those that have the time. Somebody reaches out to me. If they're not here locally, I don't have the time for them. No offense. Don't have the time because we already have our system in place. We already have the people that we deal with. I don't need that. But there are other people locally, not here, but everywhere, that can work together and knocking some things out. Is this making sense, everybody? And I'm going to give you some reasons. I've been sitting here working through some things, selling some assets off, kind of evaluating where we're at in our business, where we're at in our end game. And our end game is always, a lot of people have come across and understood, hey, we want to do this. Like I said, I want 400 assets bringing in $250 a month. That's $100,000 a month. That's $1.2 million a year in cash flow, right? But I'm like thinking, I started thinking, why am I going to work so hard? Why don't I just adjust the numbers a little bit? And I start targeting 250 assets, bringing in $400 a month. It's a higher, nicer valued asset, probably coming from a bank to get the same thing. I'm like, stupid idiot. That makes more sense. I have less assets, which means I have less servicing costs. I have more take home. Now, it all depends on the market you're buying in. Well, we're up in our game. We're up in our game quite a bit. We have a lot of things that we're working on here locally and on our portfolio that we're excited about. We're moving assets that don't hit those numbers. Got a lot of assets available for sale, not for brokering, for sale. We're buying for our own portfolio from banks. We have a lot of stuff I've worked on. I'm pretty excited about some things I've worked on the last 2 weeks, actually the last month more so, and some stuff that we're working on a lot for the next 60 days that we're going to really kind of change. We're buying from our own portfolio, and we'll be getting lists in from banks and portfolio lenders for our own business. And then, hey, moving some of those, sending out deals to our registered buyers, our registered mastermind members. Okay. If you know your top 3 states, great. I would be going to weclosenotes.com and registering there right now if you've not registered. Many people have. Okay. But that's the whole goal, rinse and repeat. Taking on portfolios and taking them down and then finding people in those neck of the woods. That's one of the things that we have worked so hard for in the beginning of the year. It's putting systems in place with investors and putting systems in place with some of these funds to really drive some things down. And we're pretty stoked about it. Because my end game isn't to be here in Austin long term. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy Austin. We're moving offices. And what was kind of nice is when I first moved to Austin here in 2001, I graduated from Texas State. I moved not too far from where my office is right now, actually about a 10-minute little drive. And there's this place. I'm like, man, it would be cool to have an office in that building. And I went in, I was like, oh, just what the heck of it. And they told me the price. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. I don't need a whole floor. I need an office. Well, I'm excited because I'm going to realize that a little goal that I put out there when I get back. When we are, well, not when we get back, but we basically finish up our lease here. We're moving a new office. We're moving on up. And I'm pretty stoked about that. It's a nicer spot. We're pretty blessed. We've got some nice spots here, but we're making some changes. We're helping things that we're making changes to will help us get to our end game faster. And I'm really excited about this. Steph is excited about this. I know Shannon is. I'm sure Hazel is a little bit, but they're working remotely. But we're really excited about that. So that our end game isn't necessarily sitting on the beach working, but getting closer to it every day. And I know that life gets in the way. We get sidetracked with things. We don't always do this. If you have a place that's your place, take a second, take some time, print out a good picture of it, get it to FedEx office, Kinko's, get it framed, post it somewhere it's in front of you. Post it somewhere you can see it every day. Because you think about that. One of the images that lasted with me throughout Endgame, it's been like this throughout, is Captain America with his compass, and he's got a picture of Captain Peggy, and he's constantly looking back at that. He's looking at that to the point where he was able to go back in and spend time with that. It's a great way to end the movie on that aspect of things. You all have an end game. We all have an end game. Some of you may not know what the heck your end game is, and that's okay. Some of you do. If you do, great. Know your numbers. Go back. If you don't know your numbers, go back and check out Note Night in America early in the year. Know your numbers. Start working your way through to get things done. $800 a month on a mortgage payment. You know what that is? That's an average payment on about a $125,000 house. That's upping your game from $50,000, $60,000 assets to $100,000, $120,000. Does that mean they're all going to modify? No, it doesn't mean they're all going to modify or reinstate, but it does mean when we do foreclose them, they're bigger checks, bigger chunks. It's a great way to do some things. Doesn't mean I don't like lower valued assets. I think there's a lot of money made on those, a lot of opportunities still. You just got to find them. But as values go up, lower value assets are becoming hard to find. So you can either sit here and gripe and moan about, oh, I can't find any deals, or you go out and adjust your game. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can take down $150,000 or $500,000 asset. Yeah, you can. There's people out there who will fund if the deal makes sense. Okay? So if you have not registered your top 3 markets, I encourage you to go to weclosenotes.com. It's my website. And you'll see 3 boxes: a box for training, a box for the mastermind, and a box for the top 3 markets to buy notes in. It'll ask you to go in there, fill the information out, fill in your first, second, and third state, your top 3 states. If you only invest in one state, just put one state down. Don't put Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. If you only do it, just do it once. If you got 3, great. Now, I don't think it requires you to put all 3. I think it only requires you to put 1 in. But put your information in there. As we get the stuff in, we've got some stuff here in the next week or 2 that we'll be sending out to those lists on deals in those markets. All righty. Questions, comments, concerns? I think Endgame is a great movie. I shed a little tear yesterday afternoon when I saw it for the second time. I enjoyed it more the second time around than the first time. Very surprised that the movie theaters were still packed at like 10:30 in the morning. Everything was packed. Chris Christensen says, when you say $100K a month, are your servicing costs covered, or does that come out of the $100K? So, Chris, what I'm saying is that $100K is net of servicing costs coming out. They've already come out. Or that $400 a month or that $250 a month is net of what's coming in. Okay? Good question, though. How do I get an automated end game in my note business? Well, Rob, part of your automated note business, your end game, I don't know. What are you focused on? Maybe you should be buying some assets for yourself versus trying to sell stuff off. And it all comes down to your marketing. Are you out networking with people? Are you taking their information and putting it into a database for you? So that you have an email, maybe database like in MailChimp or something like that you can use so that you can send an email when you get a listing, you can send an email out to those that are investing or living in those states. That's part of it. So you're reaching out to asset managers to get lists in, and you've got people there. It's just bringing. That's what it all comes down to this note game: finding deals and finding money and putting yourself in the middle. Using MailChimp, using maybe text messaging service. I mean, heck, there's so many great tools that we use to talk about things. All right. 10-4, good buddy. All right, another question here. Is there an approximate percentage that you have debtors covering servicing costs? No, Chris, that doesn't really work with your non-performing side because most of those are set up or reservicing. That works more so on your owner finance notes, where you can have the PITIS. Now, that's not saying you can't change that into your servicing comments and stuff like that, or your servicing and your loan mods or trial payment plans. I would just take it on a case-by-case level. Since I'm buying direct from banks most of the time, I have to expect my servicing costs are going to basically be covered on our end versus the borrower's end. Okay. But if you're buying owner finance notes, that's not something you can't ask. You just got to be careful that it's included. You just can't go back in and say, "Oh, now you're going to pay servicing costs." No, it's going to be varied. Obviously, non-performing is going to be a little bit more expensive than the servicing versus the performing side of things. Okay. Yep, just go to We Close Notes and register your top 3 markets, everybody. The lower end of the market servicing costs seem really expensive. Well, it all depends, Chris, on how much you're buying. If it all can seem really expensive if you're outsourcing all of it, it can seem really expensive if you don't do a lot of due diligence and you're going after and have to foreclose and all that stuff. It all depends on what your market focus is. Okay. Good question. What are the questions? I see some hands have popped up or stuff like that. Any other questions? Yeah, if you want to, you can register here your top 3 states, even if you're not buying bank loans. If you're buying owner finance notes, that's fine. Just go ahead and register there. Okay. We've had some people come to us that want us to market some of their owner finance notes that are available for sale. And at this point, we've got the systems to be able to handle that. So we're pretty excited about that. All right. Well, if there are no other questions or comments or concerns tonight, guys, I'm going to say thank you again for joining us. Note Night in America here. We will have the next Note Night in America that's open to the public actually on the 10th of June, not the 3rd. On the 10th of June will be the next Note Night in America that's open to everybody out there. So go out. Please make something happen. If you don't know what your end game is, take some time, talk with somebody, pick up the phone, give us a phone call, shoot me an email. I'll shoot you the link for a calendar invite and we can spend some time talking. Okay. But we all have an end game. We all have something in mind that we want to accomplish, guys. Do yourself a favor. Start working towards your end game. Quit worrying about somebody else's stuff and focus on your end game. And you'll be a lot happier. You'll feel a lot more relieved. And actually, you probably won't be so damn stressed. Okay? Go out, make something happen, everybody. And we'll see you all at the top. Thanks again for joining us on Note Night in America, everybody. Bye.